Hi, RightTurnRandy here. Since the last video, it's become winter. And I just finished up the other video that I did, changing oil on the Hummer and the Corvette. Lately I've been driving the Hummer around and it's been making a noise. I'm 100% positive that that's brakes, and they are pretty low. I don't know if you can see it, probably not, but I ordered all new rotors and ceramic pads for it. Showed you guys those in the last video. They're right here. So I've been looking up how to change these on the Hummer. It all seems pretty straightforward. The biggest tip that was on all the videos about that was using a bolt and threading it into these holes right here to press the old rotor off of the hub. But aside from that, it seemed like a pretty straightforward process. So I'm gonna go and try and make sure that I have a bolt that size. Once I've got that, we'll get started on swapping them all out. Okay, so I've got a lot of random bolts floating around in my garage. Unfortunately, none of them fit. I'm going to take a rotor up to the hardware store and get the right bolt. All right, so we got the rotor loaded up and we're heading up to the hardware store right now to get some bolts to press the old rotors off. It's been getting progressively worse and worse for weeks. I can hear the squealing of that tab that tells you when your brakes are running out. I don't know if you can hear the grinding, but it's getting pretty bad. All right, so it's like a 3/8. It's just 3/8 24. I tried a 3/8 16 and it did not work. So let's try this loose bolt. No, it's too fine. That ain't it. So it's gotta be metric. It's gotta be metric. Because it's not fine thread or coarse thread. I'll keep looking. Alright, so I did what I should have done in the first place, which was look it up. And someone said that it was 10 millimeter by 1.25. So this one right here is a 10 millimeter by 1.25, and 1.25 is the thread pitch, 10 millimeter is the head size, and it fits in there. So these are gonna be the bolts I need. I'm getting 2 of these. All right, so back with the bolts. That's what they look like. So I'm gonna pull the Corvette out of the garage and get started on this thing. So, got the thing up in the air. It is heavy. It kind of freaks me out to jack this thing up sometimes, but Summer's got this cap here. Just get a pry bar right in there, and the cap comes right off. Well, it could either be 3/4 or 19 millimeter, but it seems to me that the 19 fits better. But they're really close. I can barely even tell which one. Probably the 19, I think, is a little bit more of a snug fit. Let's see what we got. All right, so taking a look at these, looks like they weren't too bad. It was almost there. The rotors are not in terrible shape either, but they're getting replaced. So I love that, like, almost all new cars have this style now. You just pull this pin off, and then this little spring, you pull these 2 sides out of the brake pads, and then these pins just come sliding right out, and then the pads come sliding right out. Really super easy. My RX-7 had brakes like that, and I loved it. They're so quick and easy to change. It's a great design. The new ones came with all new hardware, so I don't have to worry about saving these clips. At least I don't think, but this is really cool because it just bends down like that, and then these little clips just pipe right out of these holes here. Once that's up and out of the way, Just get these pins out of there. Separate these brake pads a little bit. Okay, so we got one of the pads out. These two pistons won't compress. And we got these two bolts on the back here, which I've got this wrench on. This is the only 19 millimeter or 18 millimeter I have. I checked them and they're 18 millimeter, which is a weird size. I don't think I've ever used this 18 millimeter socket. But since this is the only one I have, it's gonna be pretty difficult. So I'm gonna have to be a little persuasive with this thing and hopefully be able to get it off just with some elbow grease, because I don't know what else I'm going to be able to get back there to take this thing off. There we go. Good. Okay, not quite as bad as I thought. Oh wow, that's shorter than I thought. Big bolt though. Okay. All right. I have to get a C-clamp and see if I can't press those back in, because it doesn't look like they were going to compress. So let me grab a C-clamp, see if I can do that. Okay, it looks like C-clamp's making pretty short work of it. They're moving. Yeah, the C-clamp's definitely getting them to move, but the right side doesn't seem like it wants to. It's going in, but it doesn't like it at all. Boxes that the brakes came in are going to be a fairly convenient place to set the brake caliper while I'm doing this. Have it out of the way, not be pulling on that line over there. So now I got to get a couple of those brand new bolts that I just bought, thread them into these two holes right here, and it should be able to press the rotor right off the hub. Bolts. These should just thread in there because these are the OE rotors, I'm pretty sure. Do they have flat vanes? Or? Yeah, and they're flat vanes up and down just like these. Couple turns on each side here and there, and this rotor should be off in no time. I can see it moving. Feels like it's almost off already. Yeah. Yeah, easy. Wow. Wow, that was really easy. Oh. Front driver's side. These things look so good. So new. Alright, wow. That's freaking pretty. No. It feels like it's cross-threading. It feels like it's cross-threading. Let me get a wire brush and go clean this up. Alright, so hit it with the wire brush. Come back and see if I can get it in here now. There it goes. Okay, yeah, it's going in now. Make sure those are nice and tight, like they were when I took them off. It's pretty much about as tight as I could get them with just this wrench. It'll probably be about as tight as they were when I took them off. But so now just putting the brake pads back in here, and that should be it. There it is. Easy. Alright, now the back is different. I know I'm not going to need a whole new set of tools, but I know these are definitely different brakes completely than the fronts are. So let's get this off. That's on there. I've seen guys do this at tire stores. Get a big old sledge and have to bang it off because it's like rusted on there. So I'm gonna see if I can figure out how to do that. Alright, so I banged on these things for a good bit, and that wheel didn't want to come off. So, did some searching on the internet. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna thread all the lug nuts back on, but I'm gonna back them out just a tiny bit. And that should hopefully leave the wheel free enough. And I'll do it on the other side too, so I won't have the problem over there. And I'm going to take it outside and roll it around for a little bit, and hopefully it will loosen that, and then I'll be able to bring it back in, and they should come right off after that. But I'm not taking it on the freeway or anything like that. Just going to put them on a little bit loose. They definitely aren't going to be able to slide fully off of this hub if I've got all the bolts on there. So I'm going to do that, go make a couple turns with it out in the street, and then come back in, and hopefully they'll be freed up after that. Alright, so I got the lug nuts back off. And loosened it right up. The rear calipers are a little different. You've got these two bolts here, and then this assembly comes off, and I think you can take the whole thing apart and change the brake pads and the rotor. So I'm gonna get started on that now. These are, I think, 14 millimeter. Yeah, so those are 14 millimeter. I'm gonna pull that off right now and take the caliper apart. All right, so I got this top bolt, bottom bolt down there free. Now this whole assembly can slide off of here. I could just set that out of the way. Now the pads can come out of there. Let's see what we got. Oh, phew. Okay, so now that we got the pads out, we've got to take these two bolts out here and down there. Those are 15 millimeter. So then we're going to take those two 15 millimeter bolts out, and then this whole piece should come off, and that'll allow me to remove the rotor. All right, got the rotor off. That's the emergency brake right there. Should be able to just push the new rotor on top of that without much trouble. I'm hoping so. So, new rotor's gonna go on. These clips have to be replaced. So these clips came off the old one. You can see there's sort of a long side and a short side. And the long side goes on top like that. So when we replace those, do it the same way they were. Probably clean that up a little bit before I put these on there, but that long side's gonna go on the top there like that. So then we got pads, and it hooks onto these like that. Okay, so then the pads are on. You just take this right here. We're gonna have to use a C-clamp to squeeze that piston back in, and then that will go on this and get bolted back up here and here, and that should be all there is to it. All right, so I think we got it. The only small issue I had was this thing right here it's a piston that goes back and forth, and it was pushed out a little bit that way. So I had to push it back in order to get this to fit back over to get the bolt in. But other than that, it was fairly easy, very straightforward. And once that's finished, simply repeat the procedure on the other side, and you've got all new brakes. So the last step was breaking in the pads. I took it out to a country road, brought the speed up to 45 miles an hour, and slowed it down to 10 aggressively, fairly aggressively, moderately aggressively. And you do that 3 times, and it starts heating up the brakes, and then you go from 35 miles an hour down to 5 miles an hour, and you do that sort of not as aggressively. You do that 5 times, and it starts to really heat up the brakes, and you can smell them a little bit. You have to do all of those stops without coming to a complete stop. If you come to a complete stop, it will like burn an imprint into the rotor, and then you'll always get like a whenever you're stopping. And it's done that since I got the car. It's always had kind of like a grabby area whenever I hit the brakes, but it doesn't do that anymore. So once you do that whole procedure without coming to a complete stop, you go for as long a drive as you can to completely cool down the brakes. Once the brakes are totally cooled down, then they're bedded in, they're broken in, and you can just drive it like normal. The thing has been awesome. It stops so much better. It's so much smoother. I'm so glad I put brand new brakes on it. It really, really stops a lot better. Even when the brakes get a little warm, it's still, they grab really, really good. So that's going to be it for this one. The next video, I'm going to be doing some work on the Tide car. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the videos, please subscribe, and I will see you next time.